We all have situations, experiences, and moments in our life when we know deep at our core we have to do something different. We have to pivot. And regardless of how big or small that pivot is, it requires us to change something in our life. And that change can feel really uncomfortable. However, it is that change that is creating something entirely new. And it is that newness that creates a very different way of life in one area or multiple areas of our life. What's this all about? It is all about reinventing thyself. My name is Michelle Shutter, and I'd like to welcome you to Reinventing Thyself. I am so glad that you joined me today, because it is here that we'll move beyond our old self, our old identity, and that trailer of garbage from the past that we like to pull into the future, but really need to ditch that hitch. It is here that we'll move into that place of reinvention and embracing the newness of it all. Are you ready to step into reinventing thyself? Because guess what? It is never too late, and your time is now. Let's get started. Hello. Welcome to reinventingthyself.com. My name is Michelle Shutter, and super excited that you are here today because I have seen this theme come up over and over again the last couple of weeks. And I thought, you know what? This is probably the perfect time to share this topic in the podcast format, or if you're watching it on video, so that perhaps this will resonate with you in some way. So what is that topic, right? So, that question is, when is it the right time to reinvent thyself? And so today it is all about defining what is that right time. And I have 5 different tips that perhaps will resonate with you in some way, so that if you are going through a transition, if you're going through a pivot, if you're looking to do something new and reinvent yourself, because we do this all the time, sometimes on a small scale, sometimes on a large scale, but regardless, these tips will support you in that. Now, there's one thing that I want you to think about, and it is the foundation of it all. We're looking for the right time. We want all these things lined up, and we want to have that plan solidified, and this is how it's going to go. And, oh, it's not the right time because, the kids have this going on. It's not the right time. I don't have the money for this. It's not the right time, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. It's never the right time. Say what? I know that is just not the answer you were looking for, and that's okay. That's okay, but we have to start to wrap ourselves around, it's never going to be the right time. Your pivot, that feeling that is within you to do something new, to reinvent yourself, it's showing up because it's telling you that it is the right time. But we let our heady self, we let our ego mind get in the way of, oh no, nah, it's not the right time right now. No way, I can't do that. And so it's not about finding the right time. It's about creating the right time. And there is a significant difference between the two, between finding the right time and creating the right time. Finding the right time holds a different energy. And that energy is a lower vibrational energy. And so when we're looking for that right time, we're seeking from a different place. But when we are creating the right time that is aligned with truly what we want, with our heart and our soul, and really feels in that place of deep alignment, like create that right time for yourself. And again, if you're having clues, if you're seeing things, if you're getting nudges, the whispers that are coming up that are saying, it's time, like, let's do this, don't ignore it. But these 5 tips today are going to support you in creating that right time. Now, before I dive into those 5 tips, I really want to talk about perfection, because perfection is the one thing that will sabotage our ability to reinvent ourselves. And the thing we have to learn about perfection is that when we go into that space of perfection, we really are missing out on the gift of growth, because wanting everything to be perfect is really telling our soul that we don't want to experience anything that will support us in growth. Yet our ego mind sees the growth as something less than, something that will hurt us, something that we should fear, something that is uncomfortable. And while all that is valid to a point, we don't have to step into that space. So when it comes to perfection, one of the biggest tips I can tell you, or I can share with you in terms of reinventing yourself, is explore where that perfection is coming from. Because honestly, perfection does not serve us. It is one of the biggest saboteurs out there. And when I tell you to explore perfection, it's that space of going backwards in time. And where does it come from? Like, so did you develop that characteristic of perfection because you got in trouble in at some point in your life? Or perhaps you weren't acknowledged if things weren't perfect. Or perhaps it was, you're seeking validation in some way, shape, or form. And, that whole space of perfectionism could have been passed on as well. So it could have come from parents, it could have come from teachers, just society in general. Like, there's so many places, but now as adults, like, it is our responsibility to explore where that came from, to dive deep into that, and to let that be released from ourselves, because we store that in our body. We store these energies in our body. And just a little side tangent here, but when we begin to store these negative energies in our body and we don't release them, like, that's when we start to become disconnected. And when we become disconnected, we have, illnesses that start to show up. We have a lot of angst and anxiety, some judgments. All these things start to show up that are not at the highest vibrational energy that we deserve to live our life at. So when it comes to perfection, don't be afraid to sit down, to explore that, to have a notebook, just writing things down, like just dumping it out of our head and moving that energy through us. So the other thing I want to share with you in terms of, creating the right time for reinventing myself, you're going to have old patterns show up. And I want you to be aware of that and be conscious of that, because it happens. It happens to all of us. And here's a pattern, I'll share with you. Here's a pattern that always, 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 always surfaces for me. And again, I've had to take time to dive into, like, where is this coming from? Why am I attracting this? Because it happens over and over and over again. So when I declare I want to do something different, I want to lean into that pivot, I want to make a transition, I want to reinvent myself in some way, the pattern for me that always shows up is that all of a sudden my schedule blows up. And it blows up and my time becomes very minimal, very sparse, very disconnected. And it's like all these things come up, like all of a sudden, the kids their schedule changes and I have to do something, or something in terms of like having to make calls with cars, or just little things that didn't show up this whole time. But the minute I made that decision to move forward in some way, shape, or form, bam, it all shows up and all of a sudden it's a time suck. So what the heck, right? But that for me is just like, okay, that is a pattern that is showing up over and over and over again. Dive into that pattern. Where does it come from? Where are the roots of it? Right? And so when I say dive into something, it isn't just surface level. It is diving deep into that, getting to the roots of where that is. So those two things, perfection and patterns, I wanted you to be conscious of because it's inevitable. They will show up. They will show up. And as they show up, like a lot of chatter starts to happen, right? And then we, boom, want to take ourselves out of the game. And so perhaps when I share some things in these 5 tips, that will create some more awareness for you so that when you do decide to do this and when you do decide to create that right time for yourself, that you'll know, okay, this comes up. This is the gift of growth for me. I'm going to dive in and see where it comes from, how I can release it, how I can transform that energy, because energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. So why don't we want to use that energy in a way that supports us for our highest purpose? Makes sense, right? Yeah. So let's dive into these 5 things. So remember, there is never a right time. There is never going to be a right time based on what our ego mind thinks. It's really about creating the right time. And I'm here to tell you, if you are having those nudges, those whispers, that angst of wanting to do something different, your time is now. Your time is now. So these 5 things will support you in creating that. So the first thing is make a declaration of commitment to whatever this pivot is, to whatever this reinvention is. Because if you are not voicing that commitment, does it hold anything for you? And when I say voice that commitment, that doesn't mean you need to go on social media and blast it to everybody. And honestly, I would never recommend that because you're going to get people that are not in your corner. And you could get 25 people that are cheering you on, that are in your corner, and you can get one jackass that decides to write something that doesn't align with where you're going. And guess what? That energy is so strong that it wipes out all 25 other people. So when I say declare your commitment, share it with people that are in your corner. And share it privately until you feel a good foundation under you, and then perhaps take it to a different level. Don't let the one jackass take you out of your game. Again, it's here. It's showing up for you because you're meant to do something different. Now, for me, I really needed to up-level my exercise in terms of just a routine, just getting me back on track. So I resorted back to a workout that I did, gosh, I don't know, 10 years ago or whatever. And has it been perfect? Absolutely not. But I've tracked my progress, and that has made a significant difference for me. And it's just as simple as printing out a chart and coloring in the box when I'm done. Like that lights me up. I love to be able to finish and color that in. Now, the one thing that I want you to keep in mind in terms of declaring your commitment, using something perhaps to track your commitment, whatever it is for you. It could be, so if it's health, maybe you're keeping a log of things you're eating. If it's exercise, you're doing a chart or something. If it is, you are pivoting into perhaps a entrepreneurial world or something like that, like then it's just like tracking your actions that you're taking. Okay. Again, be aware of who you're sharing this commitment with, because you want to be able to share your progress with them as well. So yes, you've made this commitment, but you also want to go back to them and just share your progress. Now, if it isn't exactly perfect, because here comes perfection again, don't beat yourself up in it. Honor what you have done and honor your actions. However, if that same pattern repeats itself over and over and over again, boom, that's a sign that you have some work to do there. Okay, I'm just saying how that is. So tip number one is declare your commitment. Tip number two is to really align your thoughts with a higher purpose. So yes, we've all gone down that road of, positive thoughts versus negative thoughts. And obviously positivity serves us at a higher level than negativity. Like, okay, so all get that. But how do I truly align my thoughts? Yes, I could tap into, affirmations. Yes, I could tap into like quotes and use that to fuel my mind. Yes, I can tap into podcasts and books and videos. Like all of that is so good. All of that is so good. Yet I want you to take that even to another level in terms of I wonder thoughts. So when you are going through this pivot, when you are leaning into your reinvention, I want you to think about I wonder what it will be like when blah, 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 fill in the blank. Use those words, I wonder. I love that because you can just sit in that space of I wonder and allow that higher vibration to come to you. It's not this force of, I am at my healthy weight, or I am super fit, or I have a six pack, or, I'm just using these as generic examples because some of that won't resonate. It won't be able to break the barriers that you have put up in front of you for so long. But yet the word wonder, I wonder, allows you to explore, allows you to expand. And that's what you want when you're creating this right time for yourself. A couple other questions, too, that come to mind is, how can I blank? And align your thoughts with that question. Or what will it take to blank? And don't be afraid to sit in a quiet space. For so long, we run and we go after things, and we're in that masculine drive over and over and over again. And we don't hit the pause button and just sit in the space of quiet with no device, with no interruptions, to just sit in that space to hear that message. So when you're looking to align your thoughts with your higher purpose, you have to allow space. You have to carve out some time. And I don't even care if it's, 10 minutes, whatever. Maybe some days it's 5. But some space is better than none. And by hearing those thoughts, you also get to decide, do I want to keep that? Is that serving my higher purpose of what I truly want in reinventing myself? Or is this a thought that I need to let go? And so that quiet space is really important. So that's number 2, is to align your thoughts with your higher purpose. Number 3 is just know that the vicious voice is a creeper. And what do I mean by the vicious voice? Well, guess what? We make that declaration. We are making that conscious effort to align our thoughts. And yet this voice comes in and wants to control everything, wants to take us out of our game, wants to sabotage us, is filled with judgments, and it's a creeper. It creeps in on us anytime we change, anytime that voice is there. Now, here's what I found. That voice loves to be loud in your corner. It loves to show up whether it's invited or not. That vicious voice loves to dump on you. But it is your responsibility to control the volume of it. So know and be aware that the vicious voice is going to be there, but dang, turn the volume down on it. You're in control of the volume. And if we make that choice to leave it loud, it's going to chatter and come at us 24/7. However, if we learn to turn it down, it makes a significant difference. And one of the things that I have learned and the strategy that I have used too when dealing with the vicious voice is I don't put my attention on what I'm going through. I put my attention on what I'm going to. So this morning, let me tell you, I did not want to get out of bed for a 5:30 workout. Just I wasn't feeling it. I'm like, oh, how can I rearrange and still be able to, have my boxes colored in on my chart, right? And then it was a matter of, okay, I'm going to shift my focus here. I'm going to shift my focus on what it's going to feel like when I'm done. And that was the strategy that all was needed to turn the volume down on my vicious voice. That simple strategy got my booty out of bed, got my workout done, and dang, it set me up for an amazing day, right? So keep in mind that vicious voice is a creeper. It's going to want to show up. It is. And when we accept that it's going to show up, it gives us the power. It gives us the control to set the volume. So that's tip number 3. The vicious voice is a creeper. Okay. Tip number 4, when it comes to creating the right time for reinventing. Tip number 4 is all about allowing yourself to deeply feel that you deserve this. And let me tell you, this can be a challenge because self-judgment loves to come in here. And when you don't achieve at the rate your ego mind believes you should achieve at, that self-judgment, boom, kicks in instantly. And it's going to be like, I told you so. So here you're going to hear that vicious voice making a comeback. Like, I told you so. I knew this wouldn't happen. There you go. You're repeating your old pattern and you're going back again. Okay, so then that's there to tell you I need to look into that old pattern. So control that vicious voice, control the volume, and know that, aligning your thoughts, and that was tip number 2, aligning your thoughts with that higher purpose is really important, but it isn't enough. You really have to embrace that feeling, that energy that comes from feeling what the outcome is going to be like, how deserving you are in terms of achieving that outcome. That space of feeling, that's what creates that I know this is going to happen for me. It grounds you. It solidifies that foundation for you that this is where I'm going. Yes, there may be challenges. Yes, I may have to make another little, minute pivot. Yes, I may have to course correct. However, that feeling creates such a deep energy to align your thoughts and your feelings together is super, super powerful. super powerful. So when you're in that space of creating those thoughts, aligning those thoughts, allow yourself some time to feel that within your core, within your heart, within your soul, deeply feeling that. Now, a lot of times when I go into that space, I get goosebumps. Like that energy resonates so deep with me. Like I get the chills. And it'll be different for each and every one of you, but just know, allowing yourself to feel how deserving you are. Now, keep in mind, if you've never done this before, it's going to feel uncomfortable. Because again, that ego mind, that vicious voice is going to be like, bullshit, you're not deserving of this, right? Like that's what's going to show up. So allow yourself a minute just to feel. And if that thought starts to creep in, like just let it pass through. One thing I used to teach second graders when, they were bullied or they had like a negative thought, I always told them, I'm like, just take that thought, attach it to a cloud and let it float away. Same thing with you. Attach it to a cloud and let it float away. Let it flow through and get back into that feeling. Because this is a new habit. This is a new muscle you have to create. Okay, so that's tip number 4. Tip number 5 is when you are creating that right time to reinvent yourself, because again, if it's showing up, time is now. It wouldn't show up if it wasn't the right time for you. And so tip number 5 is you have to do a deep heart check, in that when you are making decisions, when you're making your declaration, when you are aligning your thoughts and your feelings, those decisions cannot come from your head. They have to resonate deeply from your heart, because your heart holds your passion. Your heart holds your purpose to make a difference, to really fully embrace where you want to go and what you want to do. This heart check does not include, I can't. Oh, I should. Oh, what if? Like, it doesn't include any of that. That's not where the heart is. That's the head. So if you're starting to go into that place, I should do this, you're not doing a deep heart check. You are not aligned with your heart. So take those and let those go. The other thing is, when you are in that space of totally coming from your heart and it's just like oozing out, like your inspiration your inspiration comes from your heart, but you are taking inspired action. And that action doesn't feel heavy. That action doesn't feel like you are carrying a cart behind you. That action is light. It feels so good. Could it be a little bit scary? Could a little bit of fear start to peek in? Yes, it can. However, that inspired action, it just feels so good that like it's a craving. Your body wants it. Your body wants you to be in that deep heart space. So don't ignore that. Too many times we get up in our head and our head stops us every time. Our head may allow us to move forward in some terms, but it only goes so far. The heart will carry us forever. So let's do a quick recap of those 5 tips that I shared to you. Again, the wanting to reinvent yourself, the pivot, the transition, whatever that calling is within you, it's showing up because it's here for a reason. It wants you to lean into it. Whoever you believe in, God, universe, divine, higher self, whatever you believe in, it's bringing it forward for you because the time is now. So those 5 tips again to creating the right time for reinventing yourself. Number 1, declare that commitment with people that are supporting you. Number 2, align your thoughts with a higher purpose. Number 3, know that that vicious voice is a creeper. Look out. It's going to want to come in loud and bold, but you are controlling the volume. Number 4, allow yourself to deeply feel how deserving you are of this. And even bring in that focus of where you're going to, the end result. Feel that end result and bring that all together. And number 5, do a deep heart check. When we align ourselves with that head and we're coming from the head, it can only serve us for so long. The heart check, that resonating deeply with our heart, will serve us so much longer. Now, those are the 5 things that I wanted to share with you today. Remember, if you are looking to reinvent yourself and you want to up level, don't forget to grab my 3 shortcuts that are available at www.reinventingthyself.com. Those 3 shortcuts will actually wrap around these tips as well so that you can accelerate this. You can move at a faster pace and stay in that place of alignment so that when you take that action, it's inspired action and it feels good and light, and it's not this heaviness and this drag and weighting you down and the whole like what if that starts to come up. So I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear, which of these tips are you going to use to create this right time for reinventing thyself? And shoot me a message on Messenger at Michelle Shutter, or you can email me at hello@michelleshutter.com. MICHELLESHUTTER, 2 L's and 2 T's. I also wanted to let you know that I am recording this double, so if you are watching the video and you prefer to listen while you're walking or working out or something, you can find in the show notes a link to the podcast. And if you are on podcast and would love to see a video or connect with me, and in terms of video, I have the link for this video in the show notes as well. If you are on iTunes, you actually can search, I believe, my name, or you can search reinventingthyself.com, and that will come up in iTunes. So today, I want you just to sink into all of this. Sink into these tips. Pull out what works for you and use that to embrace the newness of creating something new, of really moving beyond your old self and leaning into the pivot and reinventing thyself. Because when you come from that place of creation that is aligned with your heart and soul, that's where the magic happens. The time is now. It's showing up for a reason. So again, don't forget to message me on what you're taking away from this episode. I would love it if you would share this episode with others that perhaps are looking to reinvent thyself in some way, right? And because reinvention comes up all the time. All the time. We crave to do something that is more aligned with our heart and soul. So until next time, embrace the newness of reinventing thyself. Take care. Well, what are you waiting for? Whether you've pivoted and are unsure, or you're on the verge of pivoting, there is no better time than now for you to begin. Want to know why? Because if it wasn't the right time, the pivot wouldn't have shown up. And to get you started, I've got 3 shortcuts to reinventing thyself. Just head on over to www.reinventingthyself.com and you can download it there. And don't forget to message me with the shortcut that resonates with you the most. One last thing. I know you and I are not the only ones that have leaned into the pivot. Be sure to share this with others so they can be supported too. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for supporting me and sharing this message. Until next time.